And finally, the police also kept records. And I like to end with this one because I think it's the most humiliating record ever. Because this is a portrait of somebody described as an habitual drunk. But you know what happened to these forms? They pasted up behind the bar in the pubs in the areas where they lived. So
Industry.
yeah. Yeah.
You've had it now.
But look at her height, she's only 4'9". So she's clearly not had a good start in life to be that height, I'd have thought. Anyway, she looks very, very unhappy, as you can imagine. But she's charged at Stafford Petty Session.
Shape of nose, long.
Well, it's all the distinguishing marks, that's why. Yeah. So just to finish off then, you're very welcome to come and visit and we'd love to see you. If you're interested in looking at any of the kinds of records that I've said, you can look at the name indexes, you can look at Find My Past to get a start off. You can try looking at the catalogue. But if you're at all stuck and you just think, I just want to look at school records for Lichfield, just send us an email. I'd like to come in and look at school records for Lichfield. And we'll send you an email back and say, yes, you can. This is what we've got. So don't feel too, don't be put off by thinking you have to know everything before you come and visit. You can just ask us first. And make a list of what you want, email us to ask questions, make a booking. It's best, you can just turn up. It's best to make a booking because then we can have things ready for you and you don't waste your time if you've made a bit of a trip to get there. And before you come, sign up for the new archives card. Has anybody got our old reader's ticket? Yeah, that's no longer valid, sadly. You need a new one. You can do it on site or you can sign up on the archives card website and get yourself ready to get the card.
How do you look at that name index?
I'll send all the web addresses to Helen and she can circulate them around everybody. So this is where you're coming to. This is on Eastgate Street. Look out for that little S sign for Staffordshire History Centre. Then you walk through the archway and this is what we now look like. So you used to walk past those railings and go around there. Now you walk up here under this portico bit and you head into the exhibition area and then just ask for the archives. Once you've finished having a look at the exhibition.
What about parking?
Parking in Stafford, I'm afraid, has not improved with the advent of the History Centre. However, there are lots of car parks. I'd suggest the Riverside one probably is the nearest.
Yeah.
Yeah, or if you've got some shopping to do in Asda and you just want to pop in and have a quick look to start with, then Asda, you've got 2 hours. So that's always a good starting point. So that concludes my talk tonight. I hope it's given you an insight into some of what we've got. And please do come visit. Helen's also got my email address. And if any of you want to send me an email to my personal email address at work and just ask about anything in this talk, please do. Don't mind at all. Just bear in mind, it might take me a while to get back to you, so I only do 2 days of Stafford now.
Okay. I think a round of applause is already, yeah. Well, absolutely fascinating. Lots of things in there I did not know. I mean, you might know, well, not be aware that some of the local parish records were actually compiled by members of this group.
Right, yes, the indexes you mean.
Somebody was going to tell me exactly what we did.
We did indexes to Burntwood Parish Register. And there's that fantastic index to the graveyard of the asylum, isn't there? Didn't somebody do that?
There is.
There is a graveyard there.
Yeah, and then we've got an index, I'm sure, that was done by this group many years ago. Does that ring a bell to anyone?
No, but I know there's an index, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure it's got Burntwood Family History Group stamped on it as the author. Yeah, we use that a lot.
Would that mean Find My Past are paying you to have them and paying us to have them at the same time? So we'll keep quiet about it if they are.
I really don't know.
Are there any questions for Rebecca or Mark? We've got a fountain Knowledge. How are we going to remember all that?
I know, that's the problem. I think you need to, what I
Yeah.
always think is that you need to select one thing to try, and that just starts you off.
Right.
Yeah. So, and also another way to really get started, I know it's not what you're here for, but it's really good just to think, you know, I could do a little indexing project for Burntwood Family History Society. I could look at all the police records, take out all the ones to do with Burntwood and do a local list. And that's a way to get yourself into looking at some of the documents.
Now, you've mentioned Find My Past on quite a few occasions. Does Ancestry have the same?
The reason I mentioned Find My Past is because Ancestry, although it's got the International Genealogical Index on it, which is baptisms, marriages and burials, it hasn't got the original registers. So the original registers, so these registers, for example, not this one because it's too recent, but somebody came into the record office and from Find My Past and they photographed all of these. They put them online and they indexed them. So that's what Find My Past has done. Ancestry has used some old indexes. So it hasn't got the original records online. So but for other counties, Lancashire, sorry, no, not Lancashire.
Cheshire.
Cheshire's on Find My Past as well. So, but some counties have put their records on Ancestry and others on Find My Past.
I think
So Shropshire,
one's on
Yeah.
Ancestry.
yeah, and London, I think. But Find My Past have got Shropshire, Staffordshire and Cheshire original records.
Which is the main reason for coming to the research evening, because we've got access to both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whichever it is, you
Yeah.
will find them.
Yeah, and you can
Yes.
use both free at the record office as well. So if you are going on a trip to Stafford, you could just call in to use Find My Past, for example, if you wanted.
There's a question from the back.
Do you, when you refer to Staffordshire, are
Yeah,
you referring to the pre-1974 county boundaries?
that's a really good question. And yes, for a lot of things, no for others.
Right.
So yes, for parish records. So we've got Walsall, Wolverhampton, for example. But what we don't have is school records for Wolverhampton and Walsall. They're at their own local record offices. Okay. The reason we've got all the Church of England records is that we're an appointed place of deposit for the Church of England, whereas these other smaller archives aren't.
Would you have police records for Walsall, Wolverhampton, or that area?
Yes and no. So we've got the records of the county force, which covered all those areas at one time.
Yeah.
And then at various different points, some of the towns had their own police forces. So Hanley, for example, Hanley Borough in Stoke had its own police force from 1870 to 1910. And those records are held at Stoke City Archives. So the same would be true for anything surviving for any independent forces for Walsall.
Walsall is separate.
Yeah,
Walsall Borough.
please. Are there any records though?
There are, I think, but I thought they were at Walsall.
History. Yeah, they would be. If they survive, that's where they would be.
I've seen some there.
Yeah.
I don't know how many they've actually got.
No.
Because my great-grandfather was in the
Oh, right, yeah. So there you go. So there are some, yeah.
So a lot of the Walsall records have got to do, you know, since the Walsall Art History Centre's moved back down into the library. I haven't got the room, when I'm centre, it's all going to do.
It's just in and out store though there, isn't
Yes,
it?
you need to.
Yeah, you need to book it from Walsall, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have got a lot less space now, sadly. Yeah.
Is Burton-on-Trent included?
Where?
Burton.
Burton, yeah, Burton comes under Staffordshire, so we've got everything that there is for
There's
Burton.
a misanomaly there that some people think that the River Trent is the boundary.
Yeah, but it's not. Yeah, so in terms of where a baby was registered, it did depend what side of the River Trent you were. But for the Burton Church of England records are held at Staffordshire. In Stafford, yeah.
Are you going to have access to the 1921 census? Because I can look at it.
I know, we haven't yet. No, hoping it'll be soon. Yeah. Have you asked in your local library?
No.
Because libraries have got access to Find My Past.
Oh,
As
no,
well
I've
as-
got access to that, but I don't bet.
21, yeah, so if we'll get access at the same
I
time
just
as
have
they
to
do.
pay to print it off.
If you come to the research evening, you don't have to pay to print it off.
What, the 1921? All right, okay.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah. When do you have the research evenings?
We had that on the fourth
That's
Monday, so it'll be 2 weeks tonight.
2 weeks time. Oh,
I
right,
mean,
yeah.
the reason we don't pay is the school said it's just too hard for them to raise a separate invoice
All
for
right, okay.
relatively
brilliant.
small amounts of money. It costs them more to raise the invoice and process the payment than it's worth.
Smell.
Then we get it free.
That's
They
fantastic.
don't want a good deal, isn't it?
It is a good deal. Well negotiated. So did the school has Find My Past as a
No,
resource?
no, we do. We
Oh, I
pay.
see.
We've got the international versions of both.
Yeah. Yeah,
That we, so, you know,
yeah,
because quite often you find something and then it will say, you can't look at that.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
it's, you know, it's American records or whatever,
Yeah, I
but
know,
we've
it's
got
frustrating.
those, the
Yeah.
full international versions.
Yeah, well done. Yeah, that's really good. Anything else?
Well, there's
No.
still a lot of records come under the 100-year rule.
So things that are included in that include hospital records for obvious reasons. But in terms of, so for example, this is an admission register to a school. It'll have information in here about people who might still be alive. So what we would do is we would say you can have access to that, but you have to sign a disclosure form saying that it's just for your information and you're not going to use it in any way for anything else. And then the onus is on you not to misuse that information. Yeah, but that's not with everything. So for some things, so this register is innocuous, but some of the admission registers have got things, very personal things about why a child left, and those would be closed.
Yeah.
But what you could do is say, I know that my mum went to this school, I want to see her record, she's deceased.
Yeah.
If you can prove that,
Yeah.
then we can give you a copy of that record.
Yeah,
Hello.
I had to do that with the 1939 register for my mum.
Yeah,
Because it was coming up as I couldn't see it. and
That's
yet-
right.
And yet she'd been dead for, what, just
Yeah,
4 years.
yeah.
So I had to send a
Send
copy
all,
of
yeah.
the death
That's good.
certificate.
Yeah,
To
yeah,
get it
they-
opened up.
yeah, that's right. So it's a similar kind of process, yeah.
What did they do? That's on the 39 register when they book about the side this is closed.
So
So recently, I was still alive under there and some out there seem to be.
yeah, it's because they had to do, they didn't know who was alive and who was dead. So they basically had to have a 100-year cut-off when they actually did the register. So they're supposed to have a rolling sort of disclosure of people that are now would be over.
Would
Yeah.
have
Would
been
now be
checked.
over 100. But the problem is that I think they just don't. It's quite difficult. Yeah, so I think they might do it in big batches in due course. Yeah.
What's the rule about patient records for verbal asylum? Because
Yeah.
we field requests for that sort of information on a regular basis,
Do you send them to us?
normally, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, the health authority, the successor health authority is responsible for those records and how they're disclosed. So any record over 100 years old is just open. So that's easy. Anything less than 100 years old, then there's an application process. Now, the health authority almost never says no, but they're sometimes cautious. So what some health authorities do is they ask for a copy of the record, they'll look at it, they'll see whether, for example, there's anything that's sort of like a really got a real hereditary element to it. And then they might say, yes, the person can see them, but we need a doctor to disclose it to them because it may have an impact on them.
Yeah.
But more commonly, they just say, yes, that's now so old, that's fine, we're happy for you to release that information to the inquirer. But we do have to go through that process, and they'll only release the information to the nearest living relative or to somebody else with that nearest living relative's permission. So if it were my mum, for example, if it were my grandmother and if my mum was still alive, then it would be my mum that would be the nearest living relative. And they won't allow anybody just to rock up and say, please can you see this record? So they're very careful,
Yeah.
but for obvious reasons.
Would they do
Yeah.
that for military? Military, should they do that for military? Yeah, they do as well.
Yeah, so that they're, so records over 100 years old are open, but the MOD still holds the Second World War service records that you can apply. In fact, I did that on somebody's behalf. It was a friend of my sister's who was dying, in fact, and he wanted to see his father's war record. And so I filled out all the forms for him. I just put a note on saying, this man hasn't actually got that long to live. He'd really love to see this last wish. They sent it back within a couple of weeks. I was absolutely amazed that they actually paid any attention to that, because I'd heard that it took yonks. But
I got one back, so on my father's 116th birthday. From the War Office. So.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, can I just say?
Yeah.
I virtually lived there for years,
I know.
and yes, and I think, yeah, I did the asylum, the asylum records, tick that box, apprenticeships, bastardy records, criminal records,
Yeah.
you name it, my lot,
Yeah.
we're on every record. And going to the asylum, they actually paid somebody to take this person on the back of the cart. So that's in the poor law records as well.
Yeah.
But what I want to say is, you made it so easy, and it was an absolute pleasure to go. It was a privilege to be able to handle these old poor law records.
Yeah.
But the whole lot of the staff, I'd like to say thank you, because you were amazing.
Oh, I will pass that on to everybody.
I've now written the book, 300 pages of it.
Wow.
Yeah, and most of that information came
Yeah.
from Stafford, not actually off
Obviously,
Ancestry, or
yeah.
it was there physically in front of me.
Yeah.
So
Well,
but that's a
sit
certainty.
here, that success.
So thank you very much.
Pleasure. We'll pass that on. Yeah.
okay, yep, last one.
What about adoption records? Do you keep those? Or are they in London?
Well, that again is a thorny topic. So social services, or whatever they're called at the moment, I can't quite remember. They keep adoption files for children that they've had any dealing with the adoption. They also keep records of children in care. And so do the charities. So if it's a charity like Bernardo's that handled the adoption, then they would keep records. So what we have are the magistrates' court records where that led through the official process of making the adoption. So the couple that want to adopt comes to the court and they're given an adoption order for a child. And the person coming to the court is either the parent or the person who has custody of the child. So it might be the local social services, for example. So we have those registers. What we also have is things going further back. So, for example, for the 1920s, we've got 1 or 2 registers of adopted children, but they're very few and far between.
Are they in the original name or the adopted name?
Well, you get both. So in the magistrates' court, you get the child's current name, and then you can see the name of the prospective parents. Yeah.